All right. Hello, everyone. So this is Inference Gateway Extension community meeting. Please note that this meeting is recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube. Please adhere to code of conduct for this meeting. And if you don't want to be recorded, please, this is the time to jump off. Right. So we've got three agenda items for today. We have one big topic and a couple of other very interesting ones as well, just as important. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with this proposal. You guys can see the new tab, right? So we are proposing to move EPP, the EPP code, into LLMD. And concretely, it's just the EPP component, basically the Xproc server and the framework, the set of plugins that implement the inference specific optimizations. If you look at our project at the higher level, you can see that it's divided into three main, distinct functional parts or components. There is the API, the inference pool specifically, and the protocol, the endpoint picker protocol. This API defines how to extend a Kubernetes gateway API provisioned proxy with a service that you call out into to pick an endpoint. And then the other one is a conformant gateway ecosystem. Basically, we've got a set of conformance tests that we can run on to qualify conformant proxies with this API and protocol. And then last but not least, there is the actual implementation and implementation of this service. We're calling it endpoint pickup service, known as EPP. The proposal here is to move that last piece. We maintain the API, the protocol, the conformance tests as part of the Kubernetes project. Ideally, move to the gateway API actually, where we also have the gateway APIs hosted alongside their conformance tests, and move the EPP out into LLMD. The main rationale is that most of the development that is happening inside EPP is specific to inference workloads. It needs to thrive, and like we've hit a point where we need to be much closer to the specialized community that knows how to advance this component. It requires tight collaboration and integration with other components in the inference ecosystem, which is the model server community, the model developers community as well. And as such, we feel that LLMD can be a good host for that. Note that this implementation is not Kubernetes specific. There's nothing in the implementation itself that is, a core Kubernetes concept or specific to Kubernetes. And so that's like the rationale. I think it's a win-win. Kubernetes gets the APIs, defines how the gateways can be extended to run the service, and then LLMD with its community, which is the model server community, the model developers community, the inference and Gen AI LLM community, knows how to implement the inference specific optimizations that are needed to make this a useful and differentiated component. So I'm gonna stop here and I'll open the floor for questions. Shamil, please go ahead.
Yes. So first of all, I'm very much in favor of this. I think IBM in general is, so I can say that. But one of the things you left out was the BBR. And if you're trying to move, okay, if you're trying to move what doesn't go to LMD into Gateway API, I don't think they would take the BBR, okay, because it's application specific. They really, we've had some, from what we understand from them, they really don't like application specific things in their bailiwick. Um, and also there's already common code between, there's, if you look at the pack under PKG, so there's, EPP, which is EPP stuff, there's BBR, which is BBR stuff, and then there's common, which is stuff that's shared between them. Um, Now, one other thing, you have mentioned timing.
Mhm.
Um, as Carlos said the other, last night, at least my time last night, anyways, um, that they're trying to get LMD to become a CNCF project, okay, which I think would get you at least I hope it gets. Well, I guess my question is, does that get us PROW, which is being used in IGW? And all of the CI/CD that you got as being Kubernetes kind of thing there. Because what we use in LMD, it works some of the time, you know.
Yeah. So you touched on a really good point. So I left BBR for now because I really want Kellen, Near, and other like leads in the AI gateway community to discuss it among themselves and reach a conclusion. Uh, I'm in favor of moving it, but since this, you know, BBR recently has been mostly driven by AI gateway working group, I would defer to the leads in that group what they exactly want to do with it. So that's one. On the as you mentioned, like yeah, LMD is CNCF, so we've got legal cover to do this, but then we also want the also community, you know, blessing to do this. We're not like it's not just because it's CNCF we can do it. About like the other technicalities, definitely like I think we need to set some like this is a project that is closer to production readiness because of all the things that we get from the Kubernetes project, right? Like the CI/CD, pre-submit, and all of these things. We need to set those things up prior to actually making the move. Those technicalities we need to figure them out with the LMD folks, like in general, like as a project. Carlos and others, how are we going to get all these like CI/CD components running? I think it's a different question, but definitely I would I would block on it, like the move on it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, Neil.
Yeah, so maybe just adding to a couple of more technical questions. So there are I think there are a few things that we will need to sort out. Nothing that is blocking us, but for example, the community calls. So we have here a community that is already, they're used to come in this day, in this time of the week. And in LLMD, there are some different people, and some of the people are the same people. But so we will need to sort out, the timings. I assume also the maintainership, because some are maintainers here, some are maintainers there, some are in both. And I'm so assuming the fact that it would be announced in KubeCon, it should probably happen fast because we need to do it like in a month. But then there are also like at least handful of sessions that should be presented in KubeCon, and I think that at least some of them are still working on it. So like I'm trying to think how we can do this in a way that keeps things stable and not shaking the ground exactly 1 month before KubeCon.
Uh, in my mind, I think things are stable. I see this as not much of a change, to be honest. I think it actually simplifies things. Like the meetings, I think hopefully there should be net less, and the crossover is net less. I'm hoping that this actually trims things down, makes it simpler. So anything going on with KubeCon still happens. Like this, EPP still has reconcilers, still relies on inference pool and all that. So, and it's all CNCF. So it's all still very
Yeah,
much connected. We're just bringing everything to the right people. Um, so to me, work continues, but it'll be simpler. The maintainership for sure. We'll have to figure out some. I think we need to decide governance as we make these changes. I think you're right. There's a lot of things we need to figure out, and that's gonna will have to be discussed in LLMD. Um,
yeah,
but
and just
ultimately, go
to
ahead. Yeah,
yeah, sorry. So just to be clear, I'm in favor of the move, so I'm not against.
yeah,
I'm +1 on this on the proposal. Just maybe we can I don't know, make a checklist of all the things that we need to do and make sure that we don't miss things. I don't know, things fall, you know, small things like
for sure,
do we
for
keep
sure.
do we keep Thursdays as our day for a meeting? Do we go with Wednesday? I don't know. Small details, but still worth putting on the table.
hmm Personally, yeah, I mean, if we're just talking about it, I'd prefer to move this time slot over. We'll probably need a longer time frame since we're consolidating the community, um, and we'll probably want it weekly anyway. So. Um, Yeah, that part makes sense. I'm curious on your thoughts on BBR. I see no reason it shouldn't move. It is owned by this repo and these maintainers. I'm in support of moving it. Um,
Yeah, I can say my personal opinion.
sure.
So I'm not talking on behalf of the AI Gateway Working Group at this point. So obviously we need to talk about that in that group. So basically, so just in case people who are not familiar with that working group, so the idea there is to standardize many of the capabilities that BBR is currently doing inside Inference Gateway, just to move it to the gateway level, to make sure that the gateway allows the capabilities, for example, for inspection of the payload and promoting a body field to a header and such things. So I see no reason not to move BBR. So BBR at this point is very coupled with inference extension or with LLMD. I think that if we move EPP, it makes sense to move BBR as well. And at the same time, the working group would probably continue its effort to standardize these things at the gateway level. And then when things become stable at the gateway, we can deprecate BBR and use that. So that's what I'm thinking. But again, it should probably be discussed in the working group.
Sounds good.
Sure.
Daniel, I'm curious about your thoughts here. I don't want to put you on the spot, but
Yeah, no, I appreciate you calling me. I was just getting ready to raise my hand. I mean, I have concerns about moving EPP, and that is for a few reasons. So one of the first reasons is like there's no like de facto standard inference stack out there. So LMD obviously there's a lot of representation here. I think it's very promising. And even if it becomes a CNCF incubated project, I mean, if you look at the CNCF landscape, I mean, just like API gateways alone, right? There's like 4 or 5, probably even more than that in the CNCF landscape. And so, I think it could wall off other inference stacks from, you know, kind of becoming splintered where we've got, similar EPPs out there as opposed to like right now, like if I'm a non-LLMD inference stack, it's pretty easy for me to consume the EPP, create my own inference stack specific plugins. And so that would be kind of my biggest concern, which is kind of tied into like going back to the genesis of the project, where it's like, hey, let's create a standard. That's why this thing is like kind of narrowly scoped, separate for inference routing. The implementation that we talk about of the APIs is the EPP that's within the repo. And it's like, okay, well, if that's the case, this is a reference implementation of the API. We're going to pull out that reference implementation of the API, put it into a specific inference stack LMD. And so I just kind of question, like, okay, what's part of it is like, what is missing? Is should the reference implementation just not have any of the plugins? Should we move the plugins out and put those in LMD? And just like if EPP in the repo is simply a reference implementation, that we have some hello world implementation of it. And so I know I'm kind of going all over the place a little bit, but it's just like, I think this is a big decision, and I may be kind of like on the outside because I know a lot of the folks here are heavily involved in LLMD.
Yeah,
but yeah,
all fair points. I just quickly try to not answer, but as much as go through your points here with my thoughts. The first one is on other stacks. So LLMD is by design a composable architecture. Like that inference scheduler or APP is going to stay as is, as a component then you install as a callout service for an xproc configured proxy. So there is going to be every effort not to have it dependent on in a way where it's you have to install all the other components. That's just like a no for everybody. Like it has to be composable, has to continue to be deployable on its own without anything else. The other thing here is, it's true that you want to have some sort of neutral ground, but Kubernetes, I don't know if Kubernetes is that right ground. Like Kubernetes, why should Kubernetes spec and define that thing, right? Like it's I don't think it's the right the right place as well for it to thrive and evolve. On the third point, I actually agree that we may want to continue to have a slimmed down EPP version, at least for conformance tests, right, for them to run. So and that we will have, I think we should have some example EPP, but one that is pretty much nobody is going to continuously evolve and implement these new optimizations, because you can't really keep track of new things in as an outsider, as a Kubernetes community. You need to be in the LLM Gen AI community to get into these optimizations, to understand them, know how to implement them, and align them with the model servers, because you can't do it in silo, right? For example, PD disaggregation, EPD disaggregation, precise KV cache routing, all of this needs strong, very close alignment, integration with the model servers, and sometimes with the models themselves. So if this thing, we want it to continue to succeed, there's a trade-off, and in my opinion, it's well worth that trade-off. You want it to be closer to that model server community. So that's just my 2 cents here. Again, it's still an open source project and the similar governance, similar legalities and all of that. They can always fork it. And we've never said that this is the EPP, right? It's an implementation. You can always fork it. It's available. It will be archived. They can fork it and do whatever they want with anybody else, right? So that's just my 2 cents. Yeah.
I,
Because the other option is really like the LLMD project could basically fork it into LLMD, and that's all legal. And all the people who were developing an inference gateway, they'd stop doing it and continue to develop an LLMD and continue to evolve it. And then you have this disparity where you've got like one version in inference gateway that is like, you know, stuck in the past, and then the other one is continues to thrive. But that is not good for our users as well, right? Like, when do I use this? When do I use that?
yeah. I agreed with everything Abdullah said. Some points I don't know, like even if they archive this repo, you can still access the release branches that has the framework. But I will say, I think the framework has been one of our biggest wins. It's helped us be flexible in the face of emergent technologies, different people who wanna support. Um, I don't see that going away anytime soon. So the only thing we're really doing is just trying to centralize effort and, like Abdullah mentioned, move closer to people who are developing state of the art. And you know, the idea, I keep using this term estuary. It's estuaries where, and Danian, I don't know if people know this, but me and Danian went to this dope aquarium. So I love the sea. But anyways, um, estuary is where seawater and freshwater meet. So in this case, production grade serving and state of the art research, we kind of meet there, and that's what LMD is meant to be. It's a place of high nutrients, high growth, biodiversity. All these things come from this meeting point, and that's what the hope of this move is. Is we take some of, you know, many of us are very invested in something production grade, but since this is inference, we're on the frontier, and so we need to be involved with those on the frontier. So moving to LMD hopefully will signify that and help us take that and take these ideas and turn them into production ready things that, again, should be composable, not just the EPP with other production stacks, but the EPP itself. Compose it to how you want. Are you doing PD? Are you doing dense? Are you doing EPD? Like, all of these things should be tunable. I really hope that this is just a net positive for open source inference serving, period. That's my take.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, so just to kind of continue the discussion, right? So, like, you know, Abdullah, you mentioned, well, I don't even know if Kubernetes is necessarily the place to define these standards. And I mean, it kind of brings me back to even like Gateway API, where I remember at one point it was like, well, you know, I worked on a project where it's like, okay, we actually want to use Gateway API outside of Kubernetes, but it never kind of became a priority, and it always kind of sits on the back burner. And you know, and I think you know, until there's enough motivation to you know, support non-Kubernetes, you know, runtime, Kubernetes and CNCF continues to be kind of the place to define these standards, and you know, whether that's Gateway API or Gateway API Inference Extension. You know, and I'm trying to go back. I'm trying to think. I think this was 2 KubeCons ago, sitting down in kind of a scrum with Clayton and the folks with VLLM, and you know, trying to figure out, like, this is kind of early days of the project, and it was just like, okay, how can we meet some of what was it, VLM production stack, I think at that time, you know, meet their needs, and that's kind of became the foundation for making, you know, EPP plugins and so forth, right? And so now fast forward to today, and we're saying, okay, same kind of use case. Now it's LLMD to, you know, and so it's like, okay, like, are we missing something with the design of the EPP where the plugins, you know, like where the plugins can't live in, you know, the particular third-party projects and have the foundation of EPP be be centralized and not tied to a particular inference stack. Because again, if I'm a different inference stack and I say, okay, well, I could import, this standard EPP, and then within my project, I develop my own plugin and maintain my own plugin. And so I could call, import EPP, call EPP after registering my project specific plugin. And I thought that was, that's my mental model of how EPP interacts with, third parties.
Yeah. Before I hand it out, I just want to answer this quickly. I see where you're going. However, the Kubernetes as a project did not spec a framework. It spec'd an API of how to integrate with the gateways. To me, that is the contract, not the EPP pluggable framework on of itself. Just like, if we're going down that road of what is it that the Kubernetes project is offering to other stacks, which is the ability to plug in an inference optimized scheduling algorithm into a Kubernetes gateway and how to pick the endpoints. That is the contract. And other inference stacks can still do that. So that's my answer to this concern. I guess Nir, or is it Kellen or Nir?
You want to go first, or? Okay, I'll go first. Anyway, so getting back to maybe we should prepare a list. So just another thought that I just thought about. So there are parallel efforts in the working group of AI conformance to define standards around inference, and they specifically they put some references to Gateway API inference extension. So I think we should coordinate. If we do this move, we should also coordinate with working group conformance to make sure. So they also mentioned LLMD there, but we need to make sure that we cover the corner points to make sure that this is aligned with the broader community.
Is it the working group, AI conformance working group?
Yes. The Yuan Tang is there, and I think there's also someone from Google. I forgot her name.
Janet.
Yeah, Janet. Yeah, Janet is there. So they had this PR, a series of PRs where they are trying to push in a PR standards that they want to define to make this definition as what is a AI conformant gateway or something along these lines. I'm not sure exactly about the phrasing, but I've seen this PR yesterday and added some comments that they're referring to inference extension. So we need to make sure that we close the gaps and see if they are referring to the protocol and APIs only. That's great, because these are planned to stay here. But if they are talking about specific things, and I do remember that they had this PR about disaggregated prefill. So we just need to coordinate the move, to make sure.
So I think one thing I want to mention, and I'm not going to put anybody on the spot here, but I know for a fact that there are people who wouldn't use the EPP. Full stop. They don't want to write in Go. They don't have things in Go, but they could still use our APIs. They could write it in, let's say Rust. And that's perfectly valid. All we're suggesting is bringing an implementation to people who have contributed to it heavily, all still within the same cloud foundation. You can still write your own EPP. You can still take the LLMD library and use the framework we've written in Go. Personally, I think LLMD will allow us to look more specifically at inference native inference first optimizations, because a lot of the value we've gotten post V1 has been LMD, I think. PD is a forefront, and that was developed in LLMD. It was actually, kind of what kicked off LLMD. So it puts us in a tight position because I think we want to lean into that, and because it's the same foundation, I think this should be it's a sibling move, and again, we're not moving the APIs, we're not moving any sort of conformance, anything. You could write your own EPP in Rust if you wanted, and some might, and I think that's all still supported.
Right. As a follow-up, I'm going to create a public issue with the proposal, again, just to make sure that we publicize it as much as we can, and we'll take it from there, I guess. If there are strong thoughts on this, I guess we can discuss them on the open issue moving forward. On the technicalities of this, if we're going ahead with this, of course, we want to make sure that all the commit history is maintained as this thing moves, among other issues as well. Yeah.
Is there a way also to move the issues?
I'm going to make it the problem of the LLMD folks. So they're getting something extremely valuable. They've got to do some lifting here.
I don't know. Maybe CNCF has some, protocol to move things around. I don't know.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. It's possible. Yeah, maybe this project could move as is into like as a repo under a different org. Since they are under CNCF, I don't know. Maybe they can. There's
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what happened when we first started LMD, because we started under Neural Magic for a while, way back when. If you remember, Near.
Yeah,
And
I
I
think.
have a bad feeling. things. I don't remember how things moved.
I think we ended up moving things manually.
That's what I think too. That's my bad.
Yeah, but that's a bit different here because CNCF is it's a very big organization, and they have some tooling in place that we didn't have in our,
Okay.
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah,
Happy
let's
to
try
see
to be
that.
positive.
Now,
also,
do we plan to take all the open issues, or closed ones as well?
That's a good question. Hopefully we can get everything. If we can just move the repo as is and maybe consolidate, somehow merge the issues, both open and closed, of both scheduler and EPP, that would be, I think, the best, because we don't lose history and we don't lose anything. But let's give it a try. I don't know.
And PRs, I assume we don't move. It's just the commits we move with the contributors get moved.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So again, as next steps, I guess Near and Killen align with AI Gateway group.
Yeah, I already added a topic. So we have a meeting in 20 minutes of the working group. I'll open it to discussion.
I'll also share this with SIG Networking because this sub-project is under SIG Networking. And the AI conformance group as well. I'll just give them heads up that this is what we're planning to do as well. And open a public issue with the intent. Thank you. Right. Bob.
Can I share my screen if that's easier?
Yeah. Make a co-host. Yes. All right. Yeah, you should be able to do this now. Stop sharing.
Okay. Yeah. So I just want to have some quick update because last week we have some discussion go over this. But there is some major changes to make things make this major refactoring easier. One thing I want to call out is the interface. This currently this has been trained a lot. We currently we only want the parser to have to be able to pass the request and pass response and pass stream response. Because there are for the streaming there are, for the response there are two cases. We want to make it explicitly. And another thing is one is the update in the scheduling request body. We can potentially define a new struct, but currently this struct is widely used both in a lot of places that like the scheduling and also the flow control. A lot of places is using this struct. So the proposal is to add any field. Like this field will hold like the like initial marshal the thing like either it's a map string any or either it's a proto message. Map string any is for JSON, is for HTTP JSON because like we have some logic to mutate the to mutate the model in the request. And using this will make it easier. And for the proto message is mainly for the gRPC part. Yeah, and that's for that, and also for how to configure parser. Um, I think like the best way is to still use the pluggable framework. Like we can have the OpenAI parser here. The current ongoing PR have is already have this change, but I'm still like doing some testing for this. I think that's three major updates. Is there any question here? And feel free to comment on the doc as well. Yeah.
Yeah, a simple question. Not sure if there is a use case, but out of curiosity. So what do you think about the use case of like supporting multiple protocols? So we might have like OpenAI parser, but we might have additional parser, and then, essentially we could have, I don't know, serving more than one protocol in the pool. Is it, I don't know, valid scenario?
So currently, I would expect that most people will use the same protocol, but if that's a valid use case, currently we don't have any use case like that. But if that's a
Okay.
valid use case, we can make it an array. And just currently, my implementation for this is just like while we are loading the config, we are hard checking like if there is only one parser or not. And if more than one parser we will error out here. But like in the future, if a multiple parser, probably we can. One thing is to change simple changes to change this to accept multiple parser, and then we will probably need to add a like match request to do something. But currently,
Yeah.
this is not in its scope. Yeah.
Okay, so assuming we have a single parser, so just in terms of UX, I would probably give the parser its own section in the config because, usually when you look on plugins, so you expect to see there are things like plugins that might potentially implement multiple extension points. Parser is like a unique in that sense.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I can know that. Yeah, the
Anna?
next.
Then that would be a section that references the plugin, not the same plugin section.
Yeah.
It's not that, it's not a replacement for what you showed, Bob.
Yeah,
It's an
great.
additional thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think probably another section like the scheduling profiles and
Yeah.
we'll I
Okay.
know that. Yeah.
Okay. No problem.
Anna, please go
I
ahead.
will point out that things
And
like
uh,
the profile picker are not like that.
yeah, we have hands up.
Sorry.
Anna.
Oh, yeah. Hello, everybody. Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm super excited about this feature. And I looked into PR, and for Dynamo use case, we literally just need 2 lines of code out of all of these 21 files. So, so if this is gonna take a while to implement this beautiful framework, then maybe we can merge those 2 lines of code, and then in Dynamo we're good. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
created the PR with these 2 lines of code. I mentioned that in the Slack channel, though it's we'll literally just need 2 lines.
yeah. So
Yeah.
my main question. Sorry, Abdullah, if you wanna go.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, my main question is like for Dynamo, like what's the protocol like you are
Yeah,
using and
yeah. So literally, we're using OpenAI protocol. We forked out the main repo, and we're allowing extra fields where we put our information. So literally, like if we add this parsed body field, and then I think in the directory we just add one line where we copy it, whatever plugin has modified, we're good to go.
and also like in the parser, like do you want like mutate the original request body so
Yeah, so
that
what
you
yeah, so what we do is when the request comes to the EPP, our plugin does the tokenization and it figures out the worker because we use KV cache based on those tokens. And then these new tokens, I need to put them into the JSON body in a special field. And then this gets sent off to our workers, and we have a wrapper around the LLM, and that worker would read it from there, and then we're good.
Um,
okay.
just I wanted to bring something up. I think you should take extreme caution supporting multiple parsers at once. If you want, maybe make sure it's like per path. There's an option within the XProp settings where we can get the data to know which path it is. So then you're still 1-to-1, because I think it will be not fun or good if we try to support, Omni object. I don't know of any API that does that. Maybe there's some, but I don't think that's what we want to do. I think if it's 1-to-1 with a path, I think is going to be a much better path forward.
I would even avoid that. So I was just like, asking out of curiosity if there's any use case for that. I assumed there isn't, but the question was for curiosity, not because I think it makes sense. So
Cool. Going back to Anna's request, I think Bob, you've already had a few refactoring PRs, and I feel that this could be part of it as well. Adding the parse, adding the field to the LLM request body. We just need to make sure that again this gets applied right, and because they get mutated, and we need to apply it back into the request before we send it back.
Yeah. Yeah, we if it's muted, we like the current pass, we actually do the double marshalling.
Okay.
Like and marshal it again. Yeah, we with this parse value, I just like basically extract the marshalling, basically put the field in the scheduling request, and we'll still do the marshalling again to send back to the envoy.
Okay. Yeah. I do recommend to do that change as part
In a
of like
separate,
yeah, and
Okay.
so that we unblock them. So
Yeah.
that's one. The other thing I had a comment, comment on your PR. LLM request body is now being is the struct that we're passing around, I believe, not request body, right? In Scorers, or is it request body?
It's LLM request body, I think.
LLM request body. So I feel that we want to up-level it just so that, again, we're now in a really nice territory where we're making the framework extremely agnostic, which is really cool. And so if maybe we should change it to request body and pass it around, and then one of its items could be a union, right? We make it LLM request body. And that's the type that we pass down all the other extension points. Just a thought here. I think this is the right time to discuss this.
Okay, you're saying maybe like putting all these fields.
No, these fields stay where they are. The type stays where they are, but the type that we pass down to all the extension points, we call it request body, and then LLM request body is one type under it. In the future, it could be whatever, like it's something else, a new Gen AI thing, or diffusion. Like the framework now is like the fact that this is, I think, the last piece that is built into our framework that was LLM specific, which is the OpenAI parser. Now that this became a plugin, I can imagine now we can create a parser for diffusion, and then a parser, and then set of scorers for diffusion, and you just change your configuration to support diffusion versus LLMs, right? So I guess this, like, what your work now is unblocking this possibility.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this should be done as part of your work stream. I'm just taking this opportunity to discuss this as a follow-up.
Okay. Yeah.
Sherman?
So I think I disagree kind of. And the problem I have now is what we can debate whether the fact that, first of all, that it's called LLM request body. There's enough things, LLM requests and LLM other things, that doesn't phase me. It doesn't necessarily mean OpenAI, right? It's a large language model until it stands for it. It doesn't mean OpenAI,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, since the plugins get the request, they can look at pieces of the request if they want to. It's best they get it in some abstract fashion and not necessarily in the original, object. Okay? Because if you don't do that, then every plugin has to understand all the different kinds of objects you could get.
So,
okay. Now I agree. I grant that we have here may not be optimal, right? We take all the different kinds of things and just splattered them around. That may not be optional. That may not be optimal either. But
I think what you touch on is interesting. I really hope we don't try to make Bob solve that here. Should we have, in an ideal case, do we have an internal type that can handle all inference? Yes. I don't know what that looks like right now. So to me, I think just creating this, anything can come in any form. We can turn it into what we currently have, and then it can go out in any form. I think achieving that, which is what Bob is doing, great. The next step, to me, what you're describing is the next step, where now we transform it and we have this abstract internal type which can handle anything. So right now we just want to deal with the outside, and then eventually I think we can move in towards the internal. But we've had no reason to not focus on LLMs until very, very recently. So
yeah. I'd just like to clarify, my point here is, imagine a type called request body, and within it we will have specifically like LLM request body as one, and then in the future we could have another one that is like, I'm not saying that it's going to be like completely agnostic, and it will be a union, like one off, and then you would have parsers for LLM parsers for other LLMs, and then your scorers also, you need to align them with, okay, am I like, I need to set, like, at configuration time, you have to have scorers that are all aligned, that they look at LLM request body, they are doing LLM scoring, and they're not doing diffusion scoring. So you can't have like an EPP configured for both, like LLM and diffusion, for example. And so that's I guess like what I'm thinking. But again, we can do this as a follow-up. But it's the high level point is the type that we pass down the scorers right now is LLM, and we're tied to LLM. Like, it's reasonable to say let's call it request body, and under it have an LLM request body member, right? And that's it. So nothing changes. And then in the future, we can add another one called, for example, diffusion request body. And we spec it like the exact internal type what it is, and then we will have parsers to parse the fusion request into it. So that's I guess my thought process here.
You've exploded the scorers and filters and things.
You will need to implement scorers specific to diffusion. You can't use the same scorer cannot do two LLM and diffusion. And so you're either going to configure all your configuration is LLM, or all your configuration is diffusion. It can't be both.
All right. Would hope not like that, but I guess I'm wrong. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to like have a quick like on this. So probably we can just have a struct and make the LM request body in the field, and
yeah, exactly, and then we'll pass it. But again, this is not part of, again, Bob, not part of this work stream. I don't want to randomize you and
Yeah.
it's just a thought, since I saw the LLM request body here. I want to leave a few minutes. Only 3 minutes. Sorry, I lost track of time. We have one more topic on the agenda.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Can I get this sharing back?
Sure.
Chrome. All right. We've got 3 minutes. I don't know. Atharva. Can I discuss?
Yeah, so the issue that I have mentioned discusses that we need to add support for tracing in BRR. So I went to the code base and also noticed how it is used in EPP. And what I realized is I have just summarized, if you just scroll down. So at the high level, after seeing the current architecture of how the code is written, the pluggability of each BRR and EPP, I thought maybe we can have sub traces associated with each plugin. So now the current flow is like you will have a single span when, for example, let's say if your service, if your request is in BRR, so you will get a single span, or if it's in EPP, you will get a single span. But maybe we can also have sub spans specific to the plugins. So in a way, if someone wants to just observe the performance of a plugin, then he can just compare it. Let's say if he has a version 1 or version 2 of that plugin. So you can just check out the traces and compare. So my question here was that if I just wanted your point of view, what if any feedback you want to add to it, so that I can have a proposal for EPP and maybe implement it for BRR, keeping the pluggability in mind.
Yeah, maybe I can answer. I'm not sure my answer would be very helpful. So to keep you honest, like, I'm not an expert of tracing. I know Sally has a lot of experience with that. So I opened this issue because we want tracing in BBR. There is already some work in place for tracing in EPP. We want kind of the same in BBR. But to be honest, I think we need Sally to give her opinion about tracing and how should we design it. unless there is anyone here on the call that has like extensive experience with tracing, which is not me.
Nir, I have to agree with you. I think we need a tracing expert to understand the impact of adding more subspans, performance impact.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure there are standards about how to do tracing. I do remember reading it when I went into open tracing, and specifically these kinds of things, like when is it right to do span, subspan, but I'm not that tracing expert. So Sally is one option. Not sure who else.
NTD?
Need to drop. NTDs need to drop, Shmuel.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, let's tag then Sally at the issue again, or maybe ping her over Slack to get her opinion.
Yeah.
All right. I guess this brings us to the end. Thank you all. Meet you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.